Hi, welcome back to this module. So, today we are going to be talking about ethical leadership. My name is Onoha Michael Thomas. Let's take a look at the few things that we are going to learn in this part of the module so that we understand what to expect and also understand the deliverables for this particular module. I said we're going to understand what ethical leadership is all about. We're going to learn the core values of ethical leadership, the benefit of ethical leadership, and also putting ethical leadership values into practice. Because in the end, it's not about knowing about this practice or principles. It's also imperative that we get to learn how to put these things into practice. Now, before we proceed, let us look at the definition of ethical leadership. What is ethical leadership all about? Based on the definition I gave here, I say ethical leadership is a way of leading based on strong moral principles and putting those principles into practice through your actions and decisions. It goes beyond simply following the rules and involves actively promoting what's right and fair, even when it's difficult. So, basically, what this definition is talking about is that ethical leadership is all about doing the right thing. It's all about doing the right thing no matter the consequence. You see, as people who go out to do great things, as future leaders and already as leaders already in whatever discipline you find yourself, most times you are going to be faced with situations where making a decision would favor one group and probably might not favor the other group, or will be faced in a position where we have to make decision that people who are close to us might not like that decision because they feel like we've made that decision against the particular group that we belong. But as a leader, it's imperative that you understand that if you're making a decision, you should make your decision from the foundation of right. If that decision right, will it benefit the people you are making that decision for? You need to understand that because you belong to some certain group doesn't mean that when you're making a decision it should always favor that group. No, it means you have to be fair in all ways. You have to always do the right thing. You don't cheat, you don't cut corners, you always do the right thing. That's what ethical leadership is all about. Now let's look at some core values of ethical leadership. The first one on this list is integrity. Ethical leaders are honest, they are transparent and consistent in their actions and words. They don't compromise their values for personal gain. They don't compromise their value for personal gain. They are honest. When you are dealing with people as a leader, because sometimes when you look at our society, because people are kind of desperate, you find people lying a lot. You find people lying a lot and not doing things the right way. But as an ethical leader, you need to understand that you have to be honest in all your dealing. You have to be transparent. You shouldn't hide things from people. You shouldn't be, trying to be corny for lack of a better word. You need to understand that you have to be, transparent in all you do. The second one is respect. Ethical leaders respect people. They treat everyone with dignity and fairness, regardless of their position or background. So, for some people, because they've attained a certain position, they feel like, oh, they've arrived, or now it's time to mingle with some certain class of people. When they see other people who are below their class, in quotes, they tend to behave negatively. They tend to treat other people wrongly. For some people it might be that okay, the people they are associating with do not belong to their particular group, their particular tribe or so, and they tend to behave negatively. So, but as an ethical leader, you need to understand that no matter the person's disposition, no matter the background, no matter what, you should respect everyone and treat everyone rightly. Then the third on my list is responsibility. They understand the impact of their decision and take responsibility for both the positive and negative consequence. You see, as a leader, you are not always going to make the right decision. Sometimes you're going to make a decision that won't go the way you would want that decision to. Sometimes you make decisions that would, hurt some people. But it's important that when you make a mistake, okay, when you make a mistake or you act in a way that you're not supposed to, instead of, blaming others, if instead of shifting blame, looking for someone to take the blame, it's important that you it's important that you understand it's good you understand the importance of taking responsibility. Okay, it's not always going to be comfortable, but it's important that you know that when you start taking responsibility for your actions, it builds character. It will endear people to you because people will trust you. They'll know that when you say something, you always stand by your word and you don't easily shift blame on people. Now, the fourth is justice. They strive to create a fair and equitable environment where everyone has a chance to succeed. Everyone has a chance to succeed. Like I mentioned earlier on, for some of us, we come from different tribes, we come from different religion, we come from different families. Sometimes it can be tempting to want to please a particular section of group we belong and displease others. So, as ethical leaders and people who are going to occupy leadership positions in the future, it's important that we understand the place of justice in our dealings, the place of justice in our environment, to understand that we have to treat everyone fairly and equally, because like I mentioned some days back, I said when you strip humans to the core, you strip humans all their belongings, everything. We are all one. We are all flesh and blood. We are all the same. And we are all created in the image and likeness of God, irrespective of our colors, our tribe, our dispositions, irrespective of wherever we come from. We are all the same. So it's important that we treat everyone fairly. We don't, cheat people or try to oppress people in some way. The last on my list is compassion. They care about the well being of others and are willing to help those in need. Definitely, you're going to go out there and you're going to find yourself in a position where people would come to you for help. People will come to you for help. Will you grumble while helping them, or will you be happy while doing so? As a leader, we need to understand that one of the core values of ethical leadership, if we want to be known as people who are good, if we want to be known as people who always did the right thing, that achieved great things, we need to understand that compassion is everything. In a world where people are constantly having anxieties, people are falling into depression, the best way to combat this negative rise health cases is to understand that when we treat people rightly, they feel a sense of belonging, and it tends to reduce a lot of stress and anxiety. So, as an ethical leader, you need to understand that you have to treat everyone right. Okay, you have to understand their well-being, understand that their health matters a lot. Now, let us look at some of the benefits. Let us look at some of the benefits of ethical leadership. So, in this part, we are going to look at three different types of benefits when it comes to ethical leadership. Number one is individual benefits. Then we are going to look at organizational benefits, and we are going to look at the societal benefit of ethical leadership. The first on my list here is individual benefits of ethical leadership. I said ethical leadership increased trust and engagement. Increased trust and engagement. So it basically increases trust and engagement. When you look at an organization where everyone is treated fairly, everything is done rightly, okay, no one is shortchanged, everybody is loved the same way, and everyone feel a sense of belonging. You discover that people will tend to work harmoniously. There'll be trust, and people will not have any reason to hide things from others. And they'll start to work harmoniously. They'll start to see each other like, let me use the religious term, brothers and sisters. People tend to work well, and when people work well, it tends to increase productivity, it tends to increase good health, it tends to improve the mind also. So when people work with leaders who are ethical, okay, it increases trust and engagement. The second one is it reduces stress and burnout. It reduces stress and burnout. When you work with people who are uptight, very strict, and they are arrogant, they are always finding fault in people, okay, they're always finding fault in people. They don't see anything good in what other people do. They are self-centered. You discover that when these people are around, because definitely they are going to probably be naggers, they are going to nag always. When these people are around, the energy they exude tends to put people off. You see that people are always scared when they are around these people. So working in an ethical, sound environment creates less anxiety and pressure. When you are in an environment where people praise you, when you make a mistake, they correct you with love, and they try to help you to grow. You tend to be safe in that kind of environment, and you work well, and your productivity tends to increase because you trust the people there. You trust that when you make a mistake, they are not going to criticize you unfavorably, and they are always going to have your back. They're always going to see ways they can help you grow. It tends to reduce that anxiety, unnecessary anxiety, and also depression, because when you put people in so much pressure coupled with life situation, it can lead to depression. So that's why working with an ethical leader, a leader that understands that everything they do should be done right, that treat people with compassion. When you work with such kind of leader, it tends to create a sound environment. So that's one of the individual benefits of ethical leadership. Now, the third is enhanced sense of purpose. Now, most times we look up to people in our environment. Why do we do that? We do that because we see the good these people do. We see the good these people do, and we want to emulate them. We want to be like them. So when you work with an ethical leader, okay, when employees feel their work aligned with ethical principles, they find deeper meaning and motivation, contributing to a positive organizational culture. When people feel like, oh, what I'm doing is right, I'm trying to improve the society, I'm trying to improve my environment, you see that they tend to work more. They tend to put in their energy towards what they are doing. Then the last is personal growth and development. Personal growth and development. Exposure to ethical leadership inspires individuals to act within with integrity in their own lives, promoting personal growth and development. Now, this particular part is talking about role models. It's talking about role models. Now, I know most of us would like to do great things, would like to be remembered for something good. Now, imagine if you grew up in an environment where they don't, bad things are just the norm. Bad things are just the norm. Chances are the person that grows up in that kind of environment will grow up emulating just the bad things. But when you grow up in an environment where things are done rightly, you see the level of progress that is achieved because things are done rightly. It will inspire you to want to be better. You will take up courses to learn how to develop yourself. You will read books to train your mind because you want to learn how to do good things. You improve your religious standing because you want to treat people right, and you want to be in connection with your God, which would also help you to grow up to become a better person. So when you look at all these things, working in an environment where things are done rightly greatly influence people around there to want to do the same thing. So that's where personal growth and development comes in. So these are the individual benefits of ethical leadership. Let me iterate what I've been saying so far. Well, I've been saying that ethical leadership is all about doing the right thing, doing the right thing no matter what. And we just looked at the individual benefits of ethical leadership. Now let's look at the organizational benefits. Now, when we talk about ethical leadership in an organizational context, okay, working with an ethical leader, okay, tends to reduce conflict and improve decision making. Because if you work in an environment that is uptight and things are chaotic, nothing is done with fairness, people are always trying to cheat others, okay, you discover that that particular environment will always be tensed up. There's Because there's level of distrust, making decisions will always be difficult because one party will always feel like he or she is being cheated. So there's going to be a lot of argument and fighting. But when the environment is right, things are done rightly, the leader is transparent in all his or her ways, you tend to discover that that place is safe. When it comes to decision making, it's smooth because everyone trusts the leader and everyone trusts that the decision they are making is for the well-being of everyone, that is the organization. So that's one of the benefits. The second one is it improves innovation and creativity. This still boils down to everything I've been talking about, staying in a safe environment. If you if you've ever stayed in an environment that is uptight, that in an environment where people are always being criticized, people are always, the fault of people are always, it's like whenever people do things, they are always looking for fault and they go out to criticize that fault and blame people. It's called that people in such kind of environment would tend to have an escapist mentality. They do not like to do things because they don't want to be judged. They don't want people to talk bad about them, especially their bosses. So in such kind of environment, you wouldn't expect people to be creative. People are always going to think in a certain way, just that safe way. So, but if you're working with a boss that is fair in all his ways or her ways, and when the particular boss is compassionate, when people make mistake, discover that people will be free to want to try out new things, which will thereby increase innovation and creativity. The third on my list is it improves reputation and brand image. It improves reputation and brand image. In one of our classes, I mentioned that whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or not, that as individual, people look at us and people, have stories about us. As leaders, as people who want to create an impact in our environment, it's important that we understand that people are looking at us. People are looking at us, and sometimes, or in most cases, our attitude our attitude will speak for us. Our attitude will be that thing that would bring us the opportunity that we want. But if we grew up dishonest, we are always scheming to take from others, you discover that that kind of attitude would create a negative image about that particular person acting that way. That's why it's important that you understand that being ethical is not just a concept, but it's a way of life, that will help you to improve your brand image, so that when you go out there in the future, people tend to respect you more. And when you say you are going to do something, they take your word for it, and they don't think that you're just scheming or trying to get something from out of them illegally. So that's why you need to understand the importance of being truthful in all your ways, treating people with compassion, and living rightly. Okay, so let's look at the societal benefit of ethical leadership. Number one, it strengthens community bond. Again, we've talked about this. Ethical leadership tends to strengthen the community bond. So imagine you're living in a community where we have different religion, different tribes, different colors, different skin colors, people, different body size and everything. And instead of treating some group rights and giving some groups some benefit and looking down on others, if we're living in an environment where everyone is treated rightly, no matter their colors, their religion, their body size, their beliefs and all these things, people are treated rightly, you discover that there's going to be trust. People are going to collaborate. They will not think about religion or tribe, and all these things will just go away naturally. So when you look at a complex society like ours, Nigeria, ethical leadership is something we crave for. It's something that most of us should imbibe, because in a complex country like ours, Nigeria, where we have multiple tribes, religion, we have different skin colors and all these things. We need leaders who are ethical, because when we have leaders who are ethical, people tend to feel safe. There's not going to be bigotry. There's not going to be all these religious wars and tribal fights and all these things we are having currently in our Nigeria. People will live harmoniously, and things would naturally improve in our country, Nigeria. And the second one is inspires future generation. Yes, when we have people who are doing things right, people younger people would easily want to emulate them. They want to do greater things. So that's why, as young people, as emerging leaders, we need to understand the importance of doing the right thing, having good moral principles that people can easily look at and say, like, hey, I want to be like this kind of lady or man, because this person is a good person. This person always does the right thing, and this person is achieving great results. That's why we look up to some leaders within our environment. So being an ethical leadership is something amazing, is something great, is something everyone should imbibe, because we need to train the future generation to do good things and the right way. And the third and last on my list for societal benefit of ethical leadership is it promotes justice and fairness. It promotes justice and fairness. Ethical leadership sets a positive example for broader society, encouraging fair treatment and respect for all individuals and group. So this boils down to everything we've been talking about, that ethical leadership is all about doing the right thing. We said it's ethical leadership, one of the qualities of an ethical leader is compassion. Now, again, in a multiple culture like ours, multiple religious system like ours, we need ethical leadership. People that will treat everyone with respect, okay? Treat everyone with respect. And when this is done, people tend to live harmoniously, and people tend to trust each other. We are going to have a society that is happy, a society that people are happy and willing to help each other. So I guess you all are beginning to see the importance of ethical leadership, and why it's important that you start now to imbibe the quality of an ethical leader, knowing that you are supposed to always do the right thing, treat people with love and compassion, okay, irrespective of their tribe, their religion, their body size, whatever disposition. Irrespective of that, you treat everyone with fairness and justice. Now let's look at putting ethical leadership into practice. One of the problem we have right now in our society is that a lot of people know what to do. A lot of people know what to do, but implementing that thing seems to be the biggest problem. So ideally, as humans, we are always growing, we are evolving. Nobody is perfect. We are always learning. But we need to understand that it's not only important to learn these things and know these things. It's important to implement these things, to put these things into our daily lives. So that's why we need to look at, applying ethical leadership within our lives. And the first thing is, you need to know that you have to lead by example. So you have to lead by example. Again, we talked about the fact that whether we know it or not, whether we believe it or not, people are always looking at us. People are always looking at us. Now, for those of us who have younger ones at home, you discover that these people, whether you know it or not, they tend to look up to you. If you want these people to grow up to do the right thing, to be in grow up to be right, okay, grow up to do the right thing, and grow up to also be great, You need to understand that people are looking up to you. You have to start living rightly. Okay, stop living a nonchalant, you having nonchalant attitude, believing that you can do whatever you want and it's nobody's business, and you start to act in a way that is, let me just use the word, way that is not pleasing, and you just feel like you don't care. You need to understand that as an ethical leader, you need to understand that people are looking up to you, so you have to live rightly. You have to treat people with fairness. You don't have to cheat people. You don't have to look down on people, especially people who are not they don't belong to your group. You need to treat everyone with fairness and example. You need to implement these things. When you go to school, when you go to work, and you see the security guard, instead of looking down on that person, you greet that person. You interact with that person, because you understand that at the fundamental core, we are all the same. We are all created in the same image and likeness of God. We are all children of God. Okay. And the second one is they hold themselves accountable. Okay, they hold themselves accountable. This is where personal growth comes into play. As an ethical leader, you need to understand that you don't have to blame anyone but yourself. You have to always look towards improving yourself. You need to hold yourself accountable for the life you are living and for the results you are getting. Okay, by the time you do this, you start taking up responsibility for your actions. You tend to see that things would start to improve, because now you are looking at where the change is required. So this is the second on my list on putting ethical leadership into practice. Now, the third way to put ethical leadership into practice is making tough decisions. So, as you go on your daily lives, you are going to experience situations where if you make a certain decision, it might not go well with maybe your own group, people you call your friends, people who belong to your society. It might not go well with them. But one thing you need to understand is that as an ethical leader, it's always all about doing the right thing. So when you are placed in that kind of situation where you have to make a decision that people in your group might not like, you should always ask yourself, is it the right thing? If it's the right thing, do it. Okay, do it. Go ahead and do it, and forget about the consequence. Forget about that. Forget about the fact that people in your group might not like it. But if it's the fair thing, if it's the right thing, just go ahead and do it. That is what it means to be an ethical leader. It's not always going to be easy. Going by the definition that we gave earlier on, it's not going to be easy. But as long as it's the right thing, eventually people will tend to appreciate your action. They might not like it at that particular moment that you're taking that decision, but with time, they will always get to appreciate that effort you've made, that action you took at that particular moment. So you need to understand that as an ethical leader, you're going to be faced with moments where you're going to make tough decisions. As young people, you need to start now to start making tough decisions. When your friend tells you to do something that is not right, that will hurt others, you need to say no. You need to start making these little tough decisions, because as you go on to, occupy bigger positions, you're going to be faced with more broader decision-making process, decisions that will be difficult, for you. So that's why you need to start practicing your decision-making process. Okay? Now, let us end today's topic. Okay? Conclude and just a summary and conclusion of everything we've been talking so far. I said ethical leadership is about doing the right thing and setting a positive example for others. Ethical leadership is all about doing the right thing and setting a positive example for others. It's not always easy, but it is essential for building a better world. So when you strip down everything that I've been talking about so far, all I'm saying is you need to start doing the right thing. You need to start setting positive example for others to follow. Yes, you are young. Yes, you have so many years to live. You have time. But you need to understand that the man or woman you go on to become tomorrow, because the tomorrow we are talking about is not far. 5 years is not far. It's just like tomorrow. Before you knew it, it's already 5 years from now. You're going to get somewhere tomorrow. So, but when you get to that place, are you going to be seen as someone who does the right thing all the time? Are you going to be seen as, someone who can be relied on? Are you going to be, looked upon when it comes to important decision making process, or when people want to do important things? Or are you going to be in a place where people don't trust you and opportunity doesn't come your way because you cannot be trusted? The choice is yours. But I'll say this: the importance of all the lectures we've been having on this leadership course is to prepare your mind to understand that as you are studying this course, that you are a leader, and leadership is not all about having big titles. You are a leader, and tomorrow you are going to occupy important leadership positions. So you need to understand that as a leader, you are entitled. It's upon you to treat people right, always do the right thing, and set a positive example for others. It's important that you understand these facts and start imbibing them into your mind, so that when that time comes, when you get to be given important positions, you act well and you go on to do great things. You go on to achieve great results because you already have that qualities. You already know what leadership is all about, and you know the importance of always doing the right thing and treating people with fairness and compassion. Thank you very much for listening to this module. Okay, to show that you've listened to everything I've said, I want to ask few questions, and I want you to type the answers to the questions I'm going to ask on the comment section. Okay, so number one is, I want you to give me two importance of ethical leadership, societal benefit of ethical leadership, two importance. And I want you to define what ethical leadership is all about. What do you understand by ethical leadership? These are the two questions. I want you to answer them and put them in the comment section below. Put down the answers and your name. Okay.